All right, man, peace. So, brothers, this is going to be another entry into the series, Can a Thug Change His Ways? And we're also going to be addressing the theme of how paternity tests must be mandatory. You brothers out there who impregnate or allegedly impregnate a woman, you must get that paternity test. I don't give a damn who gets offended. As I've addressed in other videos, if you believe that the quote-unquote party that you're speaking to, the so-called baby mama or her family, are going to be upset or offended by your request for a paternity test, just tell them that it's something that you've been told your entire life by your teachers, by your father, by your mother, that for your peace of mind, you need to get a paternity test. But once again, this entry is going to fall under the Can a Thug Change His Ways motif. Why is that? Because I've addressed this concept on this channel many times pertaining to the black man joining gangs. Many cats come on my channel, they get upset by how I speak about gangs. I have no idea why, because they've been a major source of destruction within the so-called black community and in many other so-called communities of color all throughout America. All gangs are low-level Luciferians, many times unbeknownst to them, but most of the rituals that they partake in are just an offshoot or a diluted form of what you see in fraternities, and that of course goes back to the quote-unquote Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system. Even many of the symbols that are used in these gangs, the hand gestures, etc., go back to the groves and to the covens of the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system, the veneration of Asar, Baal, Bacchus, the mother goddess, so on and so forth. So this brother right here is going to give his testimony on the gang life that he lived while in Peoria, Illinois, a lot of the destruction that he witnessed, the early and quote-unquote untimely deaths of many of his young comrades, and it's very clear that he was able to mature out of it. So hopefully it will be an inspiration for some of you other young brothers on this channel who are caught up in that lifestyle that is nothing but destructive. So anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
So I ran the streets, joined gangs, was heavy in the gangs. So everything, Peoria, Illinois, and was involved.
Hometown of Richard Pryor, if I remember correctly. And also Sean Livingston, I think, is from there.
Everything involved with it. I was involved with violence, doing violence to other people. A lot of my friends been victims of violence, seen a lot of people die young for no reason, really.
Everybody dies for a reason. Once you decide that you're going to embrace that mentality, that deleterious lifestyle of being a gang member, everybody dies for a reason. It's just not a good one.
Very poor there?
Yes, it was. So
a lot of poverty?
Yes, there is. So getting older, when they got into selling drugs and everything, I was more fascinated with that, being able to have things. And along with the living fast, so, buying cars and all that, came the women. I was more addicted to women and the lifestyle of everything. Hence,
the woman is always associated with affluence. I don't care whether you're living your life on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. It tells you a lot about them. Of course, it's going to be a controversial take, but as I've stated in previous videos, the woman is property. She's highly valued property, of course, but she is property. A lot of people are not going to like that. It's okay. But there's a reason why when you read the Ten Commandments, when it speaks to the men and it tells you not to covet, it tells you not to covet your neighbor's wife, ox, ass, manservant, maidservant. Everything listed there for you to not covet is rendered as property. Your wife is your property. You love her, you cherish her, you defend her and your family, but she is property. That's why the woman tends to seek out greener pastures. Whoever's living a greater lifestyle is where the woman is more likely to go. And I don't begrudge her that, nor should any other man. It behooves us to make sure that we're in a good situation financially. Not so that we can subsidize a woman, but so that we can maintain ourselves and put ourselves in a position where we have options and choices as well.
Now at the age of 37, I have 5 sons and 6 daughters. So.
Oh, well, at least he claims them. Shit.
Yeah, so. And move up.
Let me make this case pretty quick. So fertile as you are, this is definitely your child.
This is a paternity case, by the way, brothers.
My goodness, sir.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I say approximately 12 years ago when my oldest son was about 7 years old, he had a condition with his kidney where he was hospitalized, and I had to stay in the hospital with him for several days because they moved him out of town. And it was like I had an epiphany then where the lifestyle just wasn't for me. Like, it's more about my kids now. So I fought very hard to reestablish myself as a good standing citizen.
What age did you start turning around?
I say about 27, 28.
27, 28, what did you do to turn yourself around?
Well, for one, I just left all the gang stuff alone. I started working.
How were you able to do that? A lot of young people want to know how to get out the gangs.
I agree. A lot of them need to know how to get out the gangs and how to stop always being confederate with people who do not have your best interests at heart.
Out the streets, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of peer pressure and everything else. So how? Give them some advice. Tell them what they should do.
Well, for one, you're going to have to change the people that are around you. If you got...
Absolutely. And I hope you brothers that are out there listening who are 16 or 17 or 20 years old and you're in a gang. I remember when Nipsey Hussle passed away and I made a series of videos in reference to him or in allusion to him or one of these other celebrities who were speaking about him. A lot of cats got upset with many of the assertions that I was making because they were so accustomed to putting on the television or turning on the radio and him being spoken about like he was this angelic, transformative, messianic figure. And he was nothing of the sort. All he was a trigger that was being used by the mainstream media to try to pull more so-called black men into that blood and crip paradigm where you're going to end up killing one another, selling drugs to your own people, killing your own people, pimping out your own women, and going to prison to feed the prison industrial complex. That's all that shit was about. That's why they tried to make him out to be this heroic figure. I'm not saying that he was a terrible person, but the way that the mainstream media was covering his demise, it was very clear that the intent was to try to seduce a lot of you brothers into that bullshit. All right? So that's the bottom line to that. At the end of the day, like this brother right here is stating, as well as Judge Mathis, you always have to be cognizant of who you're surrounding yourself with. Everybody in your crew has to have a plan for their future and for their life. You cannot be surrounded by a bunch of dudes who just want to smoke weed and play video games all day and think that you're going to win in life. You should be taking your time to sit down and pen out exactly where you want to go, where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, what you want to have, and you will get it. But if you sit around with loser niggas, you're going to be a loser nigga. That's the bottom line to that. If your girlfriend is a loser bitch, you're going to have a loser baby.
Negative people around you, cut them loose because they want you to be negative with them because that's what works best for them.
Okay, you remove yourself from the environment.
And the money that I did have, I invested in a more furthering my education, getting certified within different fields. I'm now a banquet manager. I've been doing that for about 10 years. I do weddings, event plannings, and along with that, working on the side as well. I've learned a lot about home renovation and everything.
All right, no, always ask so we...
That's a great thing.
That other young people who have the same circumstance, no.
Good for him. Look at how the defender's looking at him now. She's like, damn, that sounds good. You want to go half on a baby again? Hey, brothers, real talk. I guarantee you, you could probably go back 15 years and get the chick that you was with 15 years ago and every chick from back then all the way up to now, because most of these bros ain't doing shit. They just sitting at home, sipping a damn glass of wine, finger popping themselves, watching Netflix, by their damn self. That's all they doing.
It was my observation coming up in the street.
It's just a matter of whether or not you want the old scallywag.
The depression was so tough. You couldn't get out of it unless you remove yourself from the environment. And sometimes you can do that physically, meaning move literally, or sometimes you can do it and still remain, meaning remove yourself and you're so busy doing other things you don't have time to even associate with them. Your life is structured, but when you have nothing to do, if your child has nothing to do, no father with real guidance toward manhood.
Thank you, sir. And that's the main thing. You're not going to have real structure if all you have in the house is a mother. And many people might get offended by that. It's okay. The woman is not a creature of structure. She's a creature of her feelings and emotions. They are just as integral in the upbringing of the child as the man is, but It's a yin-yang dynamic. They don't both bring the same thing. When one is missing, the other's going to have to compensate the best way that they can. But at the end of the day, it is the man who has designed and built civilizations, not the woman. So he is a creature of structure. The woman is not. They are not. And that's the main reason why the current manifestation of what we call the mainstream media, which is just, a corrosion or a corruption, I should say, of the ancient priesthood of Babylon. Their job is to make people believe that the woman is not only equal to the man, but is above the man. That's their job. They want everyone to follow after the woman because the woman is easily manipulated. Therefore, the child is easily manipulated. And most of these males have no idea what's going on because they're too busy worshiping women until they're about 35 years old. Then they want to go and become some damn MGTOW. All we have to do is instruct them from their youth upwards so that they don't have to become MGTOW. Stop them from making all these bad mistakes in their youth.
Yeah, he's going to go to the corner. And if the pressure is such at the school or anywhere else, he has to fall in line. Wasn't until I came out of the penal system and got my GED and went to college. There weren't thugs at college. But I want everyone to know, too, you're not immediately transformed. It's a process.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got out of the penal system and went to college, there was a couple people I stuck up. I pistol whipped a professor or two. It was a moment of transition, but now I'm a judge.
Incremental. So it's going to take incremental success. And get out of the environment is the #1 way. And then empower.
I stated this in the video that I did a while ago called Who Are the Real Coons? I believe it was volume 1. And I stated in the video, if you know that you're not in an advantageous financial situation to raise a child, why would you have one? If you know that you grew up in a toxic environment filled with gangs and drugs and crime, why would you bring a child into that environment? Unless subconsciously you're saying that you either hate the child or you don't believe that your child is deserving of being raised in an environment that was better than the environment that you were raised up in.
Yourself with a skill. So that's what we see, and that way you can pay for 11 kids if you're that fertile and that
and that horny. Because let me tell you, I'm a judge and I've had many pretty women come in my courtroom and try to get up under these robes. And I said, no, wait for after the show. I'll bang the gavel on that ass right after the show.
You're able to pay for 11 kids, sir.
Yes, sir. I don't have all of my, because a lot of them are older now. A lot of my children were made when I was very young, so they're all 17.
You want any child support?
I've got about, out of 11 kids, I got about $4,000 in arrearages.
That probably means more like $14,000.
I got a little evidence showing of where I'm, for my younger kids, where I'm paying child support now, as well as documents showing you of how I've been paying back my debts to society, trying to pay off all my old court costs and fines.
Good, man. I'm so glad you came in here today.
I agree. I'm happy that he's in court as well, so that a lot of cats who might not feel like they're in the best position in life can see that there's always hope and there's always a better way, as opposed to embracing that bullshit that's only going to lead to your own destruction and even worse, the destruction of your own people. We have to understand that we're behind enemy lines. So this mentality that what this other person is doing does not affect me or that person or anybody else, that's a fallacy. That's not true. Everything that we do affects everybody else. And I'm particularly talking about not keeping the laws of the land or just basic civic understandings that are going to make our environment better so that we can compete. Right now, we cannot compete with the other races because they have a leg up due to their culture. We don't have a strong culture in our community. And there are a series of stumbling blocks or roadblocks that have been configured to inhibit the so-called black man, primarily the liberal black female. That's why they want to get impregnated by you black men and then run you off. They don't want you in the home.
You know, and then I get folks who challenge my journey. And particularly street guy, oh, he ain't done all that. He wasn't on the street. I wish I hadn't been. I wouldn't have had all the problems I had. Nonetheless, you're another example that you can get out and that you can live a productive life and take care of your children as you are demonstrating. So now we need to determine whether you have a 12th child that you should be taking care of. So I'll listen to her. Give me some background on how you all came
Yeah, let's listen to Lil' Kim from the Crush on You video.
together and either had a child or not.
Okay, well, I met Mr. Grubbs. I was 16. I was a foster care person, so I grew up in a foster home. And when I met Mr. Grubbs, I had already had my first child.
She already had a child at 16, grew up in a foster home. That's why I have the series, Why Daughters Need Their Fathers. All of this shit is a trickle-down effect. And I know a lot of brothers are like, yeah, but brother, this woman won't let me raise my seed. She won't let me see my... That's why I state, brothers, we got to take our time with these women. The woman will normally show you who she is within 4 or 5 months. It's just that cats don't listen because they think that toxicity is a natural part of a relationship because they're being raised in these matriarchal households where they're constantly getting denigrated by their mothers and their sisters and their aunts, etc. They think that shit is natural to be getting demeaned by a woman. Then they get with some chick and impregnate her and call her a baby mama, and the arguments ensue from there after she gets pregnant, and they think that everything's just going to be okay. We're going to argue, but we're going to stay together because that's what happened when I was a kid at my mama's house, and it doesn't work out that way. Because the woman that you impregnate is not your mother. I've said this previously. You walk down the street with your lady or with your woman, your girl, your baby mama, and some other guy walks the opposite way, she might be attracted to that guy. When you're a child and you're walking down the street with your mother's not looking at another 8-year-old boy walking the opposite way and saying, I wish that was my son. So we have to stop comparing the two roles of mother and wife. They're not equivalent.
For about 6 months, maybe. And, like, he just disappeared. And after, like, not seeing him for a while, I found out that I was pregnant. I conceived my son in August. When I conceived...
Of 2000?
When I conceived my son in August, they took my children because I was a foster kid. I didn't know that by me being in foster care, I didn't have any rights to my children.
How old were you?
Of course not. You're a ward of the state. As a matter of fact, to be quite honest with you, everybody in America is a ward of the state. They just give certain people longer leashes than others.
16, but I got in the system at 12. And pretty much when they took my kids, like, I moved away. Like, I moved to California and just, I felt like they took my children, so I never looked back. And 10 years later, when I did decide...
That's crazy. They just take people's kids. Wow.
Come back is when I started seeing some of our old friends, and, like, they were asking about my son, and I talked...
And I hope they didn't take the sister's children because she was mistreating them.
Well, it's a possibility Mr. Grubbs could be the father. And I really didn't want anyone saying nothing, so I was like, if y'all ever came across him, let me be the one to tell him. And, like, we both have mutual friends, so his cousin ended up seeing him. I guess they had a conversation.
Were you having unprotected sex with anyone else
not
at
just
the same time?
It's not the same time, but around the same time, yes. But I believe when I did, I was already pregnant. So then when
She said she believes that when she was getting screwed raw dog by the next man, that she was already pregnant. I wonder if she believes that because she just heard that my man has his own banquet company.
To the doctor and saying that it was true, he was already gone, and I had started talking to someone else.
All right, but were you talking to someone before that?
Yes. All that bullshit about once I stopped dealing with him, I started talking to somebody else. That's nonsense. The modern liberal woman already has a bullet loaded in the chamber as she fires off that previous shot. Do not let that bullshit fool you. And now we're living in a smartphone era, so they always got another person on deck.
The same time?
Not the same time, no.
You believe it would be impossible for the child to be someone else?
It probably could be impossible for it to be someone else.
What? It probably could have been impossible. What? What the hell is this broad talking about? That's like calling somebody skinny obese. Like, is it one way or the other? Like, fuck is going on here? I think she better shift her wig over.
It's like
you
at the,
said you never
No.
slept with anyone at the same time.
let me
Thank you, Judge Mathis. I think he's picking up the same vibe that I'm picking up. She get around like Tupac.
tell you, I went to the doctor. They gave me the wrong due date at first. They told me my son was gonna be born in October.
They probably looked at your damn ovaries. They said, shit, they've taken a pounding. We really can't read this date properly.
We found out
That-
the real date.
Yes,
That's where we're at. What you found
When I found out the real date,
conclusively.
yes,
And if you look back at the real date
there's no,
conclusively,
there's no way that it could be anybody else's baby.
there you go.
Brothers, we all know, as soon as they start talking about there's no way that it could be anybody else's baby, it's probably somebody else's baby.
I take you a little long
Yeah.
to say that. You jumped around there to say that.
Shit. House of Pain jumped around less than this brother jumping around.
All right. And for the 19 years, have you been contacted?
It's actually funny. Me and my cousin, we were sitting in my car one day, and he's like, man, cuz, how many kids do you really have? And I'm counting. I'm like, yeah, I'm naming them off. And he was like,
This nigga acting like he Jacob or something. Asher, Naphtali, Benjamin.
well, what about your son with her? And I was like, what you mean? You know, I was unaware of it. So then we started talking, and I was able to reach out, because I never even knew her legal name. We were young.
Damn. You didn't even get the real name, huh? All you know is Peaches.
Our nickname Smurf. And, you know, so we started talking.
Her nickname is Smurf because she knows what to do with a pair of blue balls.
Online, and I requested pictures of the child, and when she sent me pictures of the child, which I got here, I looked at my kid pictures and compared them to his, and I was just
See it, please, Dora.
like, oh my.
And what did she say about the 19 years that she had never mentioned?
Can I?
I'm so happy that they have paternity tests now because this is the type of brother that you can tell he just loves kids. He's ready to have a 12th child, and if it wasn't for the paternity test, he would have claimed that child all for his own.
I honestly did.
Only why, because 19 years, like he said, we didn't know each other's name. When my kids got took, I moved away. I didn't know how to find him.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
there
was
no
you that
social
found
media.
her.
Yes.
Yeah, there was
Okay,
no social
got it.
media back
All right, you heard that you might be the father of her child, so you searched her down
Mhm.
to try and do the right thing.
Mhm.
And also to see if he could tap it one more again.
All right, good.
That's
Once
why I
again, I applaud you. That looks like it might be your child.
That's me. That's me as a child.
Oh, okay. So that means
And
that.
that's me. Those are me as a child. The other two are him. Him as a child and him now.
Gotcha.
Could be yours. Could also be she just like niggas that look like you.
All right. So let's find out. And what other type of reaction have you had to it? Have you told your son?
They've met. Like, I'm very open with my son. Like, we don't, like, I don't try not to carry
What
any
does your
secrets.
son feel?
My son feels like that's his dad.
Okay, good.
These bros are talking about how they feel and how their son feel and how their daughter feel. It's never about facts. Once again, brothers, the woman does not deal with reality. She deals with her feelings. That's how she creates her own world. They're delusional by nature. No offense, it's nothing personal. It's just facts. It's what it is. They are delusional by nature. That's why it behooves you as a man to make sure that your feet are firmly grounded in a sense of reality and to not allow the woman to take you on, these adventurous conditions that feed into her delusions.
You got a lot of children. I usually ask, if it isn't your child, would you like to continue the relationship in some capacity as a mentor, help with the money?
Yeah, I'm sure.
You got 11 kids, though, huh?
Yeah. I'm still gonna be there for him. either way.
Okay. All right.
Be there for him as what? You mean get on the phone once a month with him?
I'm glad to hear you're going to be there for him, because you don't have to.
Hey, brothers, you hear that? Once again, paternity tests should be mandatory.
The father.
Oh, no, salty, sweetie.
So it is possible.
Okay.
And you were sleeping with someone at the same time having unprotected
Yeah, they gave me
sex.
2 different
I'm
things.
glad you got to the truth.
Thank you.
Mathis always get tight when he realized some bro lied to him. Yeah, ma'am, I knew it. I knew you wasn't lying, ho. I mean, shit, quiet as kept. I was hitting it at the same time as he was, and it's not mine either. Court is adjourned.
Don't feel bad. We both know the truth. We both have the same
Yeah, we both know the truth. You're a $2 hoe.
conversation, like how the timing was. We knew it could either be you or somebody else. So it's not no big deal.
It ain't no big deal. You don't know who your son's daddy is. And you just in court with this dude. You made up a bunch of stories. It's not a big deal. Brothers, once again, there will be no order until the man reinstills order. When I say the man, I'm talking about you so-called black men out there. We have to have a code that we abide by. That's why these other races of color, the Arab man, the East Indian man, none of this shit goes on in their communities because they have a code that they adhere to. And they understand that when the woman is allowed to jump from dick to dick, it brings dishonor not only to the family but to their whole nation of people. And that's what's going on in the so-called black community today. You could talk about the white man this and the white man that all day. And of course, there's going to be judgment on this kingdom. Nations are taken out of power. But the onus and the crux has to be what we have to do for ourselves and one another to restore a sense or semblance of order. That's the bottom line. And we have to start with ourselves. And that's going to have a trickle-down effect with the liberal black woman, where either she's going to have to be ostracized and sent on her way out into the wilderness like Miriam was, or she's going to have to humble herself and be contrite. It's going to be what it's going to be. Is what it is. So peace.